Leah pushed the door open late again, the scent of a stranger's perfume clinging to her clothes. Jack was a shadow on the sofa in the dark living room. His voice was a shard of ice. Working late again? Yeah. Project, deadline's a killer. Leah didn't look at him, heading straight for the bathroom. As the shower started, Jack stared at the closed door, his knuckles white. This was the 11th late night this month. The next day, Jack left work early and went straight to Leah's office building in the Loop. The young woman at the reception desk looked confused. Leah Thompson. She didn't come in today. And that project team was dissolved last week. Jack's stomach plummeted into an icy void. He stood before Leah's empty, dust-filmed cubicle, a chill crawling over his skin. A security guard he knew ambled over, his voice low. Hey, Mr. T. Looking for the missus. She's been punching out right on the dot lately. Haven't seen her work overtime in ages. The lie was shattered. Jack didn't go home. He found a 24-hour diner, ordered the bitterest black coffee they had, and forced it down. The burnt taste did nothing to quell the inferno in his gut. He pulled out his iPhone, his fingers trembling with force as he dialed a number. Mac, I need you to find someone. Leah, and track her recent movements. Money's not an object. Mac, on the other end, was an old friend, a P.I., with connections and no red tape. You got it, Jack. I'm on it. Every minute of waiting was agony. Jack stared out at the dark Chicago streets, his mind replaying Leah's evasive glances, the lingering scent of that perfume that wasn't hers. At 3 a.m., his phone lit up. Mac had sent a secure Dropbox link with a message. Jack, it's all in there. You're going to want to brace yourself. Jack took a deep breath and clicked the link. Photos, videos, hotel receipts, a dashcam audio file. Each one a poison knife twisting in his gut. In the photos, Leah was nestled against another man, walking into a boutique hotel. The man's profile was handsome, with an academic air, her unforgettable college flame, the one that got away, Leo Vance. The video was from the hotel's hallway security cam, a clear shot of them wrapped around each other as they entered the room. But the kill shot was the dashcam audio, a crystal-clear recording of their conversation in his car. Leo's voice, smug and self-satisfied. See, Leah, you're the only one who really gets me. Is Jack, that clueless rich guy, easy to fool? Is he still buying that working late crap? Leah's flirtatious laugh. Who cares? He's easy to handle. And his money, better spent on you than sitting in a bank. Leo, now that you're back, you can't leave again. Crack. The ceramic coffee mug shattered in Jack's hand. Scalding coffee and sharp fragments bit into his skin, but he felt nothing. Only a cold, destructive rage shot from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He stared at the smiling faces of the two traders on his screen, his lips pulling back into a twisted, Arctic grin. Good. That's good, he whispered to the empty diner. His voice was a raw rasp. Leah, now, your good life is over. He licked his dry lips, his eyes as sharp and cold as forged steel. The blueprint for his revenge assembled itself in his burning mind with perfect, brutal clarity. He would ruin them, leave them with nothing, make them wish they were dead. At dawn, Jack was at Mac's downtown office. His eyes were shot with red, but he was wired, electric, like a wolf that had caught the scent of blood. Mac, this isn't enough. Jack slapped a stack of printouts on the desk. I want more. I want it airtight. Bank statements, every hotel receipt, the exact date Leo came back to the States, his current address, his job. And every text, every iMessage, every call log between them. I want all. Mac looked at Jack's murderous expression and swallowed hard. Jack, that's heavy. The communications, especially, that's money. Jack cut him off, dumping several thick stacks of crisp $100 bills from his old gym bag onto the desk. There's more where that came from. I want results. Fast. Mac's eyes widened at the cash. He gave a firm nod. Done. You'll have it, Jack. I'll get you everything. For the next few days, Jack moved like a ghost. He went to work as usual, even affecting a gentler tone with Leah. She seemed to sense something was off, probing, Honey, you seem different lately. Jack was peeling an apple, his gaze fixed on the blade, paring away the skin. Do I? He said, his voice flat. Just tired from work. You've been putting in long hours, too. Here, eat this. He handed her the finished apple, even managing a weary smile. Leah looked at the apple, then at his calm face, and her suspicion faded. She took a sweet bite. Don't work yourself too hard. Jack watched her, completely oblivious, and sneered inwardly. He used the time to quietly move his assets. His properties were listed with a broker at prices so low they'd sell overnight. Liquid funds from his business accounts were wired in batches to an offshore account under a shell corporation. He even contacted a notorious loan shark, Vinny the Pin Costello, using a prime commercial property as collateral to secure a massive, high-interest short-term loan. He had no intention of ever paying it back. It was a special surprise. He was leaving for Leah. The atmosphere at home was eerily calm. Leah kept coming home late, smelling of Leo's cologne, armed with excuses about crunch time and girls' night. Jack stopped asking questions. He would just be there, sitting in the shadows of the living room, watching her in silence. His stare sometimes gave her a flicker of unease, but the feeling was quickly washed away by Leo's sweet talk. A week later, Matt called, his voice buzzing with excitement. Jackpot! This Leo character is a complete parasite. He hasn't worked a day since he got back, just been living off Leah. The bank statements are a goldmine. In the last few months, she's transferred over 50 grand to his account from your joint checking and her salary. The hotel receipts? All over the city, from five-star suites to seedy motels. Dozens of them. And the texts. Man, the stuff they say would make you sick. And get this, Mac added, lowering his voice. I dug into his past. The guy's got a mountain of gambling debt from a stint in Macau. He came running back here with his tail between his legs. He's only with Leah for the money. Jack held the phone, the muscles in his jaw twitching. The rage had burned past red hot. All that was left was a cold, hard resolve to destroy. Good, was all he said, his voice chillingly calm. Package everything up. Make 3 copies. 1 for me, 1 for you. And the third. He paused, a cruel smile touching his lips. Send it anonymously to the head of HR and the director of compliance at Leah's firm. Subject line, formal complaint, employee time theft, misuse of assets, and conduct unbecoming. Consider done, Max said. After hanging up, Jack walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, looking down at the city lights. His reflection stared back, a mask of pure hatred and the exhilarating promise of vengeance. Leah, Leo, he said to his reflection, enunciating each word. The game is on. 3 Leah walked into her office building humming, feeling on top of the world. Leo had promised to take her to a new Michelin-starred restaurant. She planned to rush through her work and slip out early. As she sat down, her colleague, a nervous guy named Ben, leaned over, avoiding her eyes. Leah, you okay? Why wouldn't I be? She said, puzzled, and turned on her computer. Her Slack notifications exploded. A direct message from the head of HR, a single cold sentence. Leah, my office. Now, a rock dropped in Leah's stomach. She forced a calm expression and walked towards the executive offices. Along the way, she felt dozens of eyes on her, hearing whispers she couldn't quite make out. The air was thick with a strange tension that made her skin crawl. When she opened the door, she saw not only the grim-faced HR director, but also the head of the ethics and compliance department, a notoriously stern older woman. Leah, sit. The HR director pointed to a chair, his voice devoid of any warmth. He pushed a thick manila envelope across the table. Take a look. Confused, Leah opened it. The first page was a high-resolution security still from a hotel lobby. It was her and Leo, wrapped in each other's arms, heading for the elevators. The timestamp was from last Wednesday afternoon, the day she had called in sick. Her face went white. Her hands began to shake as she flipped through the pages. Photo after photo of them at different hotels over months. Printouts of bank statements showing huge transfers to Leo's account. And most damning of all, screenshots of their iMessage history. The messages were explicit, including her bragging about skipping work to meet him and complaining that Jack was clueless and loaded, easy to fool. This is a lie. It's fake. Leah shot to her feet, her voice a shrill cry. Director, listen to me. Someone is trying to frame me. Frame you? The compliance officer said icily, picking up another file. We've already cross-referenced your keycard access logs. In the last 3 months, you have over 15 instances of leaving the premises during work hours after clocking in, totaling over 100 hours of unapproved absence. The timestamps align perfectly with these hotel and credit card receipts. Furthermore, most of the doctor's notes you submitted for sick leave have been found to be forgeries. As for your personal conduct and the potential misuse of marital assets, the HR director said, his brow furrowed in disgust, that is your private matter. However, your actions constitute a severe breach of company policy, ethics, and basic employee integrity. You have caused irreparable damage to this firm's reputation. He paused, looking at Leah's bloodless face before delivering the verdict. You're terminated, effective immediately. Please collect your personal items. Security will escort you from the building. No, you can't do this. I'm being set up. Leah broke down, lunging for his arm. Two security guards immediately entered the room, firmly taking her by the arms. Ma'am, please cooperate. Under the shocked, scornful, and sometimes satisfied gazes of her former colleagues, Leah was marched out of the office. She stood on the sidewalk holding a cardboard box of her belongings, the bright sun feeling cold on her face. A wave of icy shame washed over her. Her phone buzzed violently. It was Leo. She answered it like a drowning woman grabbing a lifeline. Now, it's over. I've been fired. Someone set me up. Leo's voice, stripped of its usual warmth, was impatient and tinged with panic. Fired? What happened? Who did it? Was it Jack? Leah, look, I can't talk right now. I've got my own problems. I'll call you later. Now, Leo, she screamed into the dead phone. She stood aimlessly on the bustling Chicago street, a tide of fear and despair drowning her. It finally hit her. Jack knew. He knew everything. Was this just the beginning? With a trembling hand, she dialed Jack's number. It rang for a long time before he picked up. Hello. His voice was terrifyingly calm. Jack, was it you? Did you do this? Leah shrieked. You ruined my career. You bastard. There was a moment of silence, followed by a soft, cold chuckle. Me? Leah, you got it wrong. The only person who ruined your career was you. I just helped everyone see the truth. Yep. Leah was shaking with such rage, she couldn't speak. By the way, Jack's voice continued, smooth as venom. I had the locks changed. I packed up your things. They're at a storage unit downtown. You should go get them. Don't bother coming back to the condo. Jack, you can't. That's my home, she roared. Home. His voice suddenly sharpened with all the hate he'd been suppressing. The day you crawled into Leo's bed, that place stopped being your home and became just another free hotel for you. Enjoy your freedom, Leah. We're just getting started. The line went dead. Leah stood on the crowded sidewalk, a clown abandoned by the circus. The box slipped from her numb fingers, its contents spilling onto the concrete. Staring at the scattered fragments of her stable life, she finally collapsed to her knees, covered her face, and let out a raw, soul-shattering sob. It was over. Everything was over. Leah, a ghost of her former self, huddled in a corner of the discreet coffee shop where she and Leo used to meet. The shock of her public firing had left her hollowed out. Leo showed up nearly an hour late, his face even more haggard than hers. The charming, easygoing man was gone, replaced by a tense, desperate stranger. Now, Leah rushed to him, grabbing his arm. What am I going to do? Jack is insane. He destroyed my job. He kicked me out. I have nothing. Leo yanked his arm away, slumping into the chair opposite her. You have nothing? He hissed. I'm the one who's screwed. Leah stared at him. What? What happened to you? What happened? Leo's eyes were wild with fear. That psycho Jack had his lawyer send me a letter. He's threatening to sue me for fraud. He's claiming I conspired with you to commit adultery and defrauded you of over $50,000. What? Leah felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Fraud? That's impossible. We were in love. Love doesn't mean a damn thing now. Leo snapped, his face contorting. He has the bank statements. He has our texts. It's all there in black and white. He says he has an airtight case, and that I'll be seeing the inside of a prison cell. He chugged a glass of ice water, his hand shaking. Do you know what the sentence is for felony fraud of that amount? It's serious time. 10 years, maybe more. Leah, I'm finished. If I go to prison, my life is over. Leah's mind went blank with terror. No, he wouldn't. Leah, we'll go to him. We'll beg him. We'll give the money back. He'll listen for the sake of our marriage. Marriage? Leo looked at her like she was an idiot and let out a sharp, ugly laugh. Are you delusional? He got you fired, threw you out on the street, and now he's coming after me. He wants to destroy us. Give the money back. With what? You don't have a job, and I'm unemployed. That money is gone. I use it to pay off my debts overseas. He clawed at his hair, his eyes darting around before leaning in, his voice a desperate, wheedling whisper. Leah, there's only one way to fix this. For both of us. What is it? She asked, clinging to his words. You have to go to Jack, Leo said, his words coming a rush. You talk to him. He hates me, right? So you tell him it was all me. Tell him I seduced you, that I pressured you for the money. Put it all on me. Our texts already make me look bad anyway. He licked his chapped lips, his eyes turning selfish and cold. Just tell him you were a victim, that you made a mistake. You beg him to forgive you and to drop the lawsuit against me. If he lets it go, we can start over, right? Leah stared at the face she had once adored, now twisted by cowardice and deceit. A chill colder than death crept through her. For this man, she had thrown away her marriage, her career, her reputation. And now, at the first sign of trouble, he was ready to sacrifice her without a second thought. You want me to say you forced me? Her voice was a dry, trembling whisper. It's not a lie, Leo insisted, his voice rising before he quickly lowered it. It's the truth, Leah. Think about it. It's the only way to calm him down. To make him see you as a victim, too. He loved you so much, maybe he'll go soft on you. Love me? A bitter, broken laugh escaped Leah's lips as tears finally fell. Leo, are you still lying to me? Lying to yourself? Jack hates me. He wants me to suffer. He'll never go soft. She looked at his face, so twisted with fear and calculation, and for the first time, saw him as a repulsive stranger. Everything she had sacrificed for this so-called true love was a pathetic joke. I'm not doing it. Leah stood up abruptly, her voice infused with the cold clarity of absolute despair. You took the money, Leo. It was your idea. You said those things. If someone's going to prison, it'll be you. Don't you dare try to drag me down with you. She grabbed her cheap purse and stormed out of the coffee shop, leaving Leo sitting alone, his face pale with rage and terror. Leo wandered the streets, the cold wind cutting through her thin jacket. No job, no home, and the love of her life had just revealed himself to be a monster. She was completely and utterly trapped. Her phone rang, a local number she didn't recognize. She answered numbly. Leah Thompson, a stern, professional voice asked. This is Michael Peterson, Mr. Jack Thompson's legal counsel. I'm calling regarding your divorce. Mr. Thompson has officially filed a petition with the court on grounds of adultery and dissipation of marital assets. 6-7. Summons will be served to your last known address. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson has been granted a temporary restraining order freezing all marital assets. All bank accounts bearing your name, including your joint account with Mr. Thompson, have been frozen by court order. Please expect to be served shortly and prepare to respond. The line went dead. Leah stood frozen in the wind, like a statue. Bank accounts frozen. Divorce petition. Dissipation of assets. Jack had just severed her last lifeline. Jack! She whispered his name, her teeth chattering from cold and a new, deeper fear. The hatred in her heart was now matched by the terrifying realization that he was not going to leave her with a single thing to crawl away with. Leah was a rat in a maze, dragging her suitcase into a grimy, pay-by-the-week motel room in a forgotten industrial stretch of the city. The room was tiny, damp, and smelled of mildew. Unemployed, homeless, broke, and now facing a lawsuit, the onslaught had broken her. She thought of her parents. They'd been lukewarm about her marriage to Jack, thinking she'd married above her station, but surely they wouldn't let her starve on the street. She worked up the courage to call their home in rural Indiana. Her mother answered. Mom? It's me. Leah's voice broke on the first word. Leah? Her mother's tone was cool, impatient. What is it? Why are you calling at this hour? Mom, something terrible happened. Through choked sobs, Leah told her everything. The firing, being kicked out, the frozen accounts, Leo's betrayal, the impending divorce. She painted herself as the victim, a woman deceived by a charismatic predator. The line was silent for so long Leah thought the call had dropped. "Mom? Are you there?" "I'm here," her mother's voice returned, as hard and cold as iron. "Leah, what do you want me to say? You had a good life. A wonderful husband. Jack gave you everything. A beautiful home, a nice car, anything you wanted, and you threw it all away to run around with that. That Leo character. You gave him your husband's money. Now you've lost your job, your home, and you're being sued. Do you have any idea the shame you've brought on this family?" Leah's heart sank. "Mom, I know I was wrong, but Leo tricked me. I have nowhere to go. I don't have a cent to my name. I'm behind on the motel bill. Mom, can you just lend me a little money to get by?" "Lend you money?" Her mother's voice shot up, sharp and derisive. "Where do we get money to lend you? Your brother just got engaged. They're trying to save for a down payment. Your father's health isn't good. The medication costs a fortune. We can barely make ends meet as it is. Besides, we're not getting involved in this mess. Jack is clearly a man you don't cross. What if he came after us? We can't afford that kind of trouble. Mom, I'm your daughter." Leo wailed in desperation. "My daughter," her mother scoffed. "I don't have a daughter who would bring this much disgrace to our name. After what you've done, you have the nerve to ask us for help. Don't call here again, Leah. We can't bear the shame." The call ended. Staring at her phone, Leah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the poorly heated room. Even her own parents had cast her out. She collapsed onto the lumpy bed, a profound, crushing loneliness swallowing her whole. Her phone rang again. It was Jenna, her best friend since college. A tiny spark of hope flickered. She answered, her voice thick with tears. "Jenna." "Leah." Jenna's voice was like a razor blade, dripping with contempt. "Are you even human? Do you know how good Jack was to you? We all saw it. And you cheated on him? With Leo Vance of all people? That guy was a snake back in college, and you were the only one too blind to see it." Leah was stunned. "Jenna, how did you find out? How did I find out?" Jenna's voice trembled with rage. "The whole world knows. It's all over your old company's gossip mill. And someone posted the photos in your disgusting text messages in our college alumni Facebook group. Leah, you make me sick. After all these years, I never knew you were this type of person. Vain, selfish, and shameless. No, Jenna, please let me explain." "Explain what?" Jenna screamed. "Save it for the judge. I'm calling to tell you one thing. We're done. I don't want a friend like you. Don't ever contact me again. I don't want your filth near me." The line went dead. Leah's hand fell, the phone clattering to the floor. The alumni Facebook group? The photos and texts were posted there. With trembling fingers, she picked up the phone and opened the app. The group page was a raging inferno of comments. She scrolled back, and there it was. The picture of her and Leo in the hotel lobby. The screenshots of their most intimate, damning texts. "OMG, is that Leah Thompson? I thought she married that tech guy. Wow, some people are never satisfied. I always thought she had a thing for Leo back in the day. This is messed up. Using her husband's money to support her affair, and then calling him a clueless ATM. Jack deserves so much better. Serve her right for getting fired. A woman like that deserves to lose everything. Leo is just as bad. What scumbag. Perfect for each other. Someone remove her from the group. So embarrassing." Each comment was a poisoned dart, piercing her eyes, her heart. The screen blurred. She felt a crushing weight on her chest, unable to breathe. It was all gone. Her job, her home, her love, her family, her friends. In a matter of days, Jack had systematically ripped every foundation of her life out from under her, leaving nothing but scorched earth. She was an outcast, a pariah, the villain in a story everyone was now reading. "Jack, you're so cruel. So damn cruel." Leah curled into a ball on the filthy motel bed, her cries turning into animalistic howls of grief. She knew, with terrifying certainty, that this hell was only just beginning. 6. A month later, the sky over the city was a bruised, oppressive gray. At the county courthouse, Leah stood alone in a faded coat, looking 10 years older. She was gaunt, her eyes sunken in dark circles. She watched as Jack Black's sedan pulled up. He emerged in a tailored dark suit, his expression impassive. Beside him was his lawyer, a serious-looking man in his 50s. Jack didn't even glance in her direction as he walked up the courthouse steps, a mountain of cold indifference. Leah's stomach clenched. She couldn't afford a lawyer. She followed him inside, a lone defendant against the world. The courtroom was stark and silent. Jack and his attorney, Mr. Peterson, sat at the plaintiff's table, composed and prepared. Leah sat by herself at the defendant's table, feeling small and exposed. The proceedings began. Mr. Peterson stood, his voice clear and precise. Your Honor, during the marriage of my client, Mr. Jack Thompson, and the defendant, Ms. Leah Thompson, the defendant committed egregious violations of the marital contract. She maintained a long-term adulterous affair with a third party, Mr. Leo Vance. The evidence for this is incontrovertible. He submitted a binder of photos, hotel receipts, and text message logs. Furthermore, the defendant engaged in a pattern of dissipation of marital assets. 7-8. She deliberately transferred and squandered community property, funneling over $52,000 to Mr. Vance for his personal use, including the payment of gambling debts. He submitted the bank statements. 6. Additionally, Peterson continued, his tone hardening, we have evidence that the defendant, during the marriage, incurred a significant debt in her own name. She took out a high-interest loan of $80,000 from a private lender known as Vinnie Costello. He produced a loan agreement and transfer records. While this debt was taken out by the defendant alone, it occurred during the marriage. Under state law, and with no evidence it was used for the benefit of the marriage, we contend this should be considered a marital debt. 9. Leah shot up, her face ashen. What? An $80,000 loan? I don't know anything about that. The judge's gavel struck. The defendant will maintain order. Peterson gave Leah a cold look. The defendant may claim ignorance, but her signature and thumbprint are on a legally binding contract. We have reason to believe this was a deliberate act to further drain the marital estate in preparation for divorce. 6. In conclusion, Your Honor, Peterson summarized, the defendant's infidelity and financial misconduct are the sole and direct causes of the dissolution of this marriage. 8. 10. Her malicious actions have severely damaged my client. Therefore, we petition the court to 1. Grant the divorce. 2. Due to the defendant's gross fault and dissipation of assets, award the entirety of the marital estate to the plaintiff. 3. Assign the $80,000 debt solely to the defendant. And 4. Order the defendant to pay the plaintiff $20,000 in punitive damages for emotional distress. Leah stared at the loan agreement being displayed on the screen. Her signature, her thumbprint, she had no memory of it. It's a forgery. He forged it, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at Jack. He's setting me up. For the first time, Jack turned and looked directly at her. There was no anger in his eyes, only a vast, chilling emptiness, a look one might give a piece of trash on the sidewalk. Silence, the judge ordered. Miss Thompson, you claim forgery. Do you have evidence to support this? Evidence? She had nothing. She didn't even know the document existed until this moment. No. She sank back in her chair, defeated. The rest of the hearing was a blur. Jack's case was a fortress of evidence. Leah's attempts to defend herself were weak and easily dismantled. The text messages where she called Jack clueless and loaded obliterated any claim she might have had of being a victim. When the judge returned after a short recess to deliver the verdict, Leah felt her soul disconnect from her body. This court finds that the defendant, Leah Thompson, engaged in behavior that constitutes a profound breach of marital fidelity, that her actions in transferring and squandering marital funds are proven. The $80,000 debt, supported by the presented contract, is deemed a marital liability. Given the defendant's overwhelming fault in the dissolution of this marriage and her malicious financial conduct. The judge's voice was a hammer. Each were a nail in her coffin. The court rules as follows. 1. The divorce is granted. 2. The entirety of the marital estate, including all real estate, vehicles, and financial accounts, is awarded to the plaintiff, Jack Thompson. 7.3. The marital debt of $80,000 will be the sole responsibility of the defendant, Leah Thompson. 4. The defendant will pay the plaintiff $10,000 in damages. She didn't hear the rest. Everything to Jack. $80,000 debt. My responsibility. $10,000 in damages. The words spun in her head. She was not only leaving with nothing, She was leaving with a debt of $90,000. No. A raw, animalistic scream ripped from her throat. The courtroom swam before her eyes. She swayed, and then fell backward, hitting the cold, hard floor with a sickening thud as darkness consumed her. Jack stood up slowly, adjusting his cufflinks. He looked down at the unconscious woman on the floor, the woman who was once his wife, and felt nothing. He gave a slight nod to the judge, turned, and walked out of the courtroom, his lawyer at his side. The sun was breaking through the clouds. He took a deep, clean breath. The years of resentment, the fresh wounds of betrayal, they all seemed to vanish with the sound of her scream and the thud of her body hitting the floor. Damn, that felt good. Seven Leah woke up on a cold bench in the courthouse hallway. A bailiff stood over her, his face impassive. You're awake. You need to leave now. She struggled to sit up, her head pounding. The verdict slammed back into her consciousness. Penniless, $90,000 in debt. She stumbled out of the courthouse into a cold, spitting rain. She had nowhere to go but back to the grimy motel. When she arrived, the owner, a beefy man with a perpetual scowl, was waiting for her, flanked by two rough-looking young men. Well, look who's back, he sneered. Sir, Save it. He cut her off. You're 3 days behind on rent. That's $150. Pay up and get out. I'm not running a charity. Please, just give me a couple more days, she begged. I'll find a job. A job? He laughed, a short, ugly sound. Lady, your story's all over the local news blogs. Who's going to hire you? He nodded to one of the young men. The man shoved past Leah and into her room. Hey, what are you doing? She screamed, but the other man held her back. She heard the sounds of her few belongings being thrown around. Stop it. That's all I have. A moment later, the man emerged with her battered suitcase, clothes spilling out of the unzipped sides. He threw it on the wet pavement at her feet. Here's your junk, he said with disgust. Now beat it before you stink up the place anymore. The owner grunted. Consider the rent a loss. Just get the hell off my property. He and his thugs went back inside, slamming the door. Leah stood in the rain, shivering, staring at her pathetic, ransacked suitcase. The humiliation was a physical blow. She didn't even have a corner of a filthy room to call her own. She dragged the heavy case through the slick, dirty alleys of the industrial park, mud and grime splattering her legs. She had no one to call, nowhere to go. As she passed a dark alley, a leering voice called out, Hey, isn't that Leah Thompson? Looks like you're having a bad day. She looked up in terror. A group of rough-looking men were huddled under an awning, smoking. The one who spoke, a man with a jagged scar on his face, pushed himself to his feet and swaggered toward her, his eyes crawling over her rain-soaked clothes. Heard you used to be a real high-class lady, he said, the reek of cheap beer on his breath. Nowhere to go. Hang out with us for a while. You're nice to us, we'll be nice to you. Find you a warm place to sleep. The others snickered. A scream tore from Leah's throat. She wrenched her suitcase and ran, blind with panic. The wheels clattered and skidded on the broken pavement. Behind her, she heard their mocking laughter and catcalls. She ran until her lungs burned, until she couldn't hear them anymore, finally collapsing in a dark, garbage-strewn corner. She sank to the wet ground, pulling her knees to her chest, and sobbed, the sounds muffled by the rain. Jack, now, I hope you both rot in hell. Her curses were pathetic whispers in the night. After what felt like an eternity, the rain subsided. She was freezing, starving, and soaked to the bone. She had to find shelter. She wandered through the most derelict part of the neighborhood until she saw a piece of cardboard taped to the door of a crumbling tenement building. Room for rent. $300 a Montag. First and last up front. The hallway smelled of urine and decay. She climbed a rickety staircase to the 3rd floor and knocked on a door. A skeletal old woman with cloudy, suspicious eyes opened it. You here for the room? She rasped. Yes. The woman opened the door wider. The room was a closet containing only a rickety cot and a broken table propped up with bricks. The walls were covered in mildew. A piece of plastic sheeting was taped over a broken window pane. $300 a month. $600 to move in. Cash. Utilities are extra. The old woman held out a claw-like hand. Leah's shoulders slumped. I don't have any money right now. Can I pay you when I find a job? No money, the old woman screeched. Then get lost. She started to slam the door. "Wait," Leah cried, a desperate idea striking her. She frantically pulled off the designer watch Jack had given her years ago. It was old, but it was real. "Please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Take this as a deposit. It's worth a few thousand, I swear. I'll get a job, and I'll pay you, I promise." The old woman snatched the watch, squinting at it in the dim light. "Junk, probably," she muttered, but she slipped it in her pocket. "Fine, this covers your deposit. You got 1 month. Next month, it's 300 cash, or you're out on your ass." She let Leah in. The door slammed shut behind her, plunging the tiny room into darkness. Leah slid down the door and sat on the filthy floor. In the absolute, suffocating darkness, she finally let go, her cries echoing in the tiny, foul-smelling space. From a penthouse condo to a rat-infested slum in less than 2 months. And the $90,000 debt hung over her head like a guillotine, waiting to drop. Leah was jolted awake by the cold. The wind cut straight through the plastic on the window. The thin, scratchy blanket offered no warmth. Her stomach ached with hunger. She had to find work. Any work. She put on the cleanest clothes she had and walked out into the gray morning. The neighborhood was full of small diners and grimy workshops. She went from one to the next. "Are you hiring servers?" she asked a greasy spoon diner. The owner, a sweaty man with a cigarette dangling from his lips, looked her up and down. "Got experience? You fast. I can learn. I'm a very hard worker." "Hard worker? Huh," he grunted. "All right, 3-day trial. Unpaid. I feed you. We'll see." Thinking of the food, Leah agreed. It was hell. Washing mountains of greasy dishes in ice-cold water until her fingers were numb and cracked. Mopping filthy floors. Wiping sticky tables. The owner and customers barked orders at her constantly. The owner would accidentally brush up against her when she was bent over. She endured it all, fighting back her disgust and humiliation. At the end of the 3rd day, her body screaming in protest, the owner tossed a $10 bill on the counter. "Here, you're too slow, too clumsy. Get lost." The $10 bill felt like a burning coal in her hand. She left without a word, tears of shame stinging her eyes. She tried a textile workshop, but her fingers were clumsy on the sewing machine. She tried a plastics factory, but the chemical fumes made her violently ill. She even tried to get a job on a construction site, but the foreman just laughed at her. Finally, next to a reeking dumpster behind a 24/7 noodle bar, she saw a sign, "Dishwasher wanted. Night shift. $10/hour. Room included." The owner was a heavy-set woman with a face like a bulldog. "You'll work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. break 1 dish. It comes out of your pay. You sleep on a mat in the back storeroom." "I'll take it. Thank you," Leah said, grabbing the offer like a lifeline. Her life became a cycle of darkness and filth. Every night, an endless mountain of greasy bowls, oily pots, and sticky chopsticks. Her hands were permanently raw, submerged in a cold, disgusting soup of detergent and food scraps. The storeroom was a tiny, windowless space filled with junk. She would collapse on her mat, exhausted, and sleep for a few hours before the cycle began again. Payday was a ritual of humiliation. "Leah, here's your pay." The owner would slap a small wad of cash on the counter. "Let's see, you broke 2 bowls. That's $20. You were slow last Tuesday, so I'm docking you 50. And 50 for your share of utilities for the room. Here's what's left." Leah would stare at the meager amount, her heart sinking. After buying food and basic necessities, there was almost nothing left. The $90,000 debt was an impossible mountain, and she was an ant at its base. "Is there a problem?" the owner would bark. "Don't like it? You can leave. Plenty of people would kill for this job." Leah would just lower her head and take the money. Leave? Where would she go? She would return to the dark, smelly kitchen, plunge her raw hands back into the icy, greasy water, and begin to wash. The only sounds were the clatter of ceramic and her own ragged breathing. Despair was a permanent stench, like the old grease in the kitchen, and it had soaked into her bones. 1 year later, from the top floor of a downtown skyscraper, Jack Thompson watched the city lights glitter below. He swirled a glass of expensive bourbon, the picture of success in his bespoke suit. "Mr. Thompson, last quarter's profits are up 18%. driven primarily by the tech firm acquisition. His assistant reported. Good. We'll discuss it at the morning brief, Jack said, dismissing him. Alone, he picked up a tablet from his desk. The screen was split into several live security feeds. One feed showed the grimy kitchen of a 24-hour noodle bar. A skeletal woman in a filthy apron was hunched over a wash basin, scrubbing an endless pile of bowls. Her hair was a limp, greasy knot. Her movements were slow, mechanical, utterly devoid of life. Another window showed a close-up of her face. It was sallow, gaunt, and etched with lines of exhaustion. The eyes were hollow, the light within them long since extinguished. It was Leah. Jack watched her, his expression unreadable. He swiped to another feed. This one was from the back room of a seedy offshore casino. Leo Vance was on the ground, being kicked by several large men. He was blubbering, begging, a pathetic wreck. A text from Mac popped up on his phone. The target picked another losing horse. The house sent its regards, just like he said. Broke his other leg for good measure. He won't be walking right again. He's been blacklisted everywhere. He's finished. Jack allowed himself a small, cold smile. He closed Leo's feed and went back to Leah. She had finished the last bowl. She struggled to her feet, swaying with dizziness, catching herself on the greasy wall. She shuffled to a corner and filled an old tin mug with water from bucket. From a plastic bag, she took out a block of cheap, dry ramen noodles, broke it apart with her hands, and dropped the pieces into the cold water. She sat on the floor in a trash-strewn alley behind the kitchen. With a plastic fork, she mechanically lifted the pale, soggy, uncooked noodle pieces to her mouth, chewing slowly, her eyes fixed on nothing. Jack raised his glass and drained the bourbon in one smooth motion. He watched the woman on the screen, a creature stripped of all dignity, chewing on cold, hard ramen, and a wave of pure, triumphant satisfaction washed over him. It was a feeling more potent than closing a billion-dollar deal, more intoxicating than the finest liquor. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, it was all gone. In its place was the clean, cold thrill of absolute victory. He turned off the tablet. The city lights gleamed. He was the king of this city, and his enemies were crushed to dust beneath it. He turned back to his desk, picking up the quarterly report. The chapter of his life that included Leah and Leo was closed. Their hell was just beginning, and it would be endless. And that was enough. A genuine, relaxed smile finally spread across Jack Thompson's face. Damn, that felt good.